channel. Welcome and welcome back to the channel, man. So, first and foremost, I'd like to say I hope all of y'all are vibrating at a high frequency, not letting no negative energy stop y'all positive. Let me move some right here real quick. So, as you can see by the title of this live, I want to talk to y'all about if Earth is a loose farm, and I want to also talk to y'all and explain to y'all what loose is, right? So y'all can have a better understanding of what I say when I say is Earth a loose farm, right? So the loose is the energy that is emitted from your being, your aura, when you are faced with any type of low vibrational emotion. Low vibrational emotions being fear, stress, anxiety, depression, grief, worry, all of these low frequency emotions, right? So that's what loose is, right? And what you also have to know is that we are living on a loose farm. And who feeds off of the loose? Loose is fed off on the fourth dimension, I believe, by beings on the fourth dimension in the dream realm. And they feed off of this energy, be it trauma, grief, violence, uh, sexual energy, you know, shame, all of these emotions, right? And how they get you to emit these emotions are through these systems that they have set up on this planet, right? These systems being religion. The music industry produces a lot of loose because it programs low vibrational thoughts into your subconscious. And with those thoughts being programmed into your subconscious, it makes you vibrate at a certain frequency. And that certain frequency makes you produce loose, right? Makes you produce loose. And this energy is this energy is a food source for these beings, these evil entities on the fourth dimension, on these archons, right? So this is what you have to be aware of, that this planet that we're living on, not necessarily the planet, because the planet is a being, but this simulation that we are living in, where you have to go to work and pay bills, this is a loose form, right? And the whole purpose of this simulation, going to work and paying bills and sitting in your car on your way to work, sitting on your car on your way back from work, is all to produce this loose energy, right? And this loose energy is fed off of in the fourth dimension by low vibrational entities, right? And I think I'm gonna plug the mic up just so y'all can hear me well. But this loose is fed off of in the fourth dimension by low vibrational entities, right? Let me plug this mic up real quick. Plug this up real quick. So the purpose of this is just to bring awareness that we are living on a loose farm. This planet is a loose farm, and the purpose of this loose farm is to harvest low vibrational energy. And these beings that are running this, they feed off of our emotions, our low vibrational emotions. The emotions of you not knowing if you're going to pay your bills on time, you're not knowing how you're going to get your next meal. Those emotions come with energy, right? And with that energy is able to be fed off of. Check, 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 check. So hopefully y'all can hear me. I just plugged the mic up, but that energy is able to be fed off of, right? That energy where you don't know if you're gonna pay your bills on time. You don't know, like for instance, say if you got EBT, right? And and they talking about some, oh, we're gonna cut the EBT off, we're gonna cut the food stamps off. That's gonna produce a lot of loosh, because now you don't know how you're gonna feed your kids during the holiday, you know, and that feeling that you feel with being told that they're going to cut your EBT off, etc. That's the same feeling you feel when you don't know if you're going to be able to pay your rent, right? Or they raise the prices. Now you stressed out. Now you're producing that loosh, and these entities feed off of that loosh. And there's certain systems set up on this planet so they can produce a lot of loosh, like religion. Religion is set up telling you to sin, 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 and how the loosh is harvested. You have to be on a certain frequency, right? I'm gonna just tell y'all all I know about this shit. You have to be on a certain frequency. You can't be vibrating too high. You can't be vibrating too low. They got to keep you at a certain frequency. You have to be on that frequency. That's why religion produces a lot of loosh, because of the shame and because of the faith, right? If you knew religion was bullshit and you knew that you're going to go to church, you're going to be praying and all this, and you're not going to get nothing from it, you will stop doing that. You will stop giving your energy to that system. But what you believe in, that, okay, yeah, something's going to change, and if I pray to this God, I'll get some relief. With you believe in that, and then you getting let down, you're producing more of that loosh. Like, say if somebody says I'm gonna be there at 5 o'clock to pick you up, and the first time they tell you they're gonna be there at 5 o'clock to pick you up, and they don't show up, you're like, damn, you're all emotional, you're sad, etc. Right? So you're producing a lot of that loosh. But if you know they're gonna, if you know they tell you I'm gonna pick you up at 4 or 5 o'clock, and they don't show up at 4 or 5 o'clock, and you get used to that, you're not producing no loosh. That's why they have to keep us feeling like this world is not evil. Because if we know this world is evil, all of the bullshit will not surprise us, right? When we get that element of surprise, realizing that, oh, it's a senator doing some pedophilia, etc., that produces loose. Because we're like, damn, for real? It strikes us more of a surprise compared to if we were already knowing this shit. And when we are hit with the surprise, that's how they produce the loose. Because if you knew, yeah, this world is low vibrational, these entities are feeding off your energy, you wouldn't be giving that energy no more because you'll be used to it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying this planet is a Loosh harvesting farm, right? And they harvest your Loosh through these certain systems, like the music industry, the entertainment industry, when they program stuff into your subconscious, and then you act out them thoughts, etc., and that produces that energy, that low vibrational energy, and they feed off of that. That's why we have to go to work. And that's why we have to sit in traffic on the way to work. That's why we have to pay our bills and then repeat the process, because when we are doing all of this shit, we're producing this energy, and that energy can be fed off of in the fourth dimension, right? And when people are getting gang stalked, they're getting gang stalked by entities. The government is not the ones that are targeted individuals. The these are entities using these vessels, right? Because if it's something called morphic resonance, if the community, if the population, the masses, etc., gets to a certain conscious level, it's going to automatically expand to the rest of the population, right? Morphic resonance. Just like, for instance, when there's fish swimming in a line, etc., or there's birds flying from one coast to the next coast, they're all on the same frequency. They're not flying into each other and crashing into each other. They're on the same frequency because they're all on that morphic resonance, right? So just like, for instance, if they have black people or any people, any species, I'm gonna say black people because we're one species. If it's the black species, black people, right? And just like, for instance, with black people, like little kids, it can be a little black kid. They'll see the police and they'll know, like, okay, this cop is, they'll get scared, etc. We don't have to teach them that. That's because morphic resonance. We all black people know that the police are against black people, right? So that's already passed down to our generations without us having to even say nothing. You know what I'm saying? Because of morphic resonance. Just like when fishes go from one coast to the next, or birds fly from one coast to the next, they're not all flying into each other. Nobody's getting lost and turning left when they're supposed to be going right, because they're all on that same resonance. They're all on the same frequency, right? Now, for instance, say if all of the black people were to come into consciousness and realization of what we're living in, it'll be like 25% of the population, 30% of the population. I'm just using black people in my species as an example, but it'll be 30% of the population. Then automatically the rest of our species will come into knowledge of this information because of morphic resonance, right? So that's why when people start to wake up, they start getting gang stalked, because you don't have to wake up everybody. Excuse me, I'm doing hella shit right now. You don't have to wake up everybody. If it's a million people, I'm not even gonna say, I ain't even gonna say my species, right? But if it's a million people sleep, you don't have to wake up that whole million to get a change, right? You only have to wake up a percentage, because once you wake up a percentage, the rest is going to awaken because of morphic resonance, right? That's why when people start, like, so we're living on a Loosh farm, right? And if people start trying to make this known and bring awareness to this, they're not gonna be able to feed no more, right? I'm gonna have to take the mic off. I'll get back up once I get some food. But the people are aware that we're living on a Loosh farm. These entities will not be able to feed off of that energy because people will be aware. They're only able to feed off of that energy because there's shit like hope, you know. So you feel like this energy that you feeling, it's a possibility that it might go away, you know? And if you knew that you was living in hell and that these entities are feeding off of the low vibration energy that we feel on a daily basis, you will probably feel that energy less. You know what I'm saying? Let me get right real quick. I have to put the mic here. Yeah, but this is a loose harvesting planet, man. And I ain't gonna say planet, but this is a loose harvesting farm for sure. Right? It's a loose harvesting farm. And everything that we do on this planet, all these systems that are set up, and I'm getting gang fuck right now. But I don't give a fuck. All these systems that they have set up, like the education system, the motherfucking music industry, these are all systems to produce that loose energy, right? And when you're getting gang stuff, you have to understand it's not by the these are entities that are setting out the targeted individuals. These are entities. You know what I'm saying? These are entities doing this shit. Because the more awareness you bring to this loose shit, the less they can eat. You know what I'm saying? The less they can eat. You have to know this shit, right? So I'm gonna just talk to y'all while I'm on this little drive real quick. Yeah, we living on the fucking loose farm, harvesting our loose. You know, they're harvesting our energy. More importantly, they're harvesting our low vibrational energy from the emotions that we feel having to work. All of this shit, right? All of the shit. It's all to get your loose. You know, and these entities on the fourth dimension, because you have to understand, just like you can see the wind, or you can feel the wind and hear the wind. You can see the effects of the wind, but you can't see the wind because the wind is on a different frequency. If you were vibrating at a certain frequency, oh, I'm tripping. You'll be able to see the wind, right? People don't see the wind, but it's just there. Like for instance, these entities and all that shit. People don't see these entities, but they're there, right? They're there. Like the loose energy, people don't see that energy, but it's there. And I hope y'all can hear me. I'm driving right now. I'm gonna put the mic back up once I get some more juice. I just want to talk to y'all about this loose. Really just talking to myself, and whoever is listening is going to see. Whoever gets this information, I'm gonna leave a live post. But you go to work, you're on your way to work, you look at the bill and you realize you may not have enough money to pay that bill. That energy that you feel like, damn, how am I gonna pay this bill? How am I gonna do this? How am I gonna do that? That's that loose, right? That's that loose energy. Or you driving and somebody tailgating you, etc. That's that loose, right? That's that loose energy. And the entity, and in my opinion, the creator of the inorganic species is the same ones that feed off of this loose energy, right? That feed off of that loose. Also making this a big awareness. That's why people are getting attacked. That's why people are getting targeted. Before we come down to this planet, we already know all this. We know about to enter hell. Once you get down to this planet, they release your memories. They release your memories, right? And then they start programming you. And your parents start programming you too, because they're already programmed. You know what I'm saying? Your parents are already programmed because they've been on the planet for however long they're already programmed. Or they can place you in a family, in a box/state, right? And these people will just try to keep you off your path your whole life. A lot of our families are agents, man. You know what I'm saying? Besides all that, they harvesting our loose energy. That shame. That's why religion is so prevalent, and so many people are under that spell, right? That's like me telling you to go. That's like me and a buddy of mine, and we own an organization, right? And one part of the organization tells you to go smoke some weed, and the other part of the organization tells you to, it's okay for you, it's okay if you feel bad about smoking that weed, to ask for forgiveness, right? Over time, we own both of these organizations. I own the organization that's going to give you the weed so you want to smoke, and then my buddy owns the organization that where you go when you feel ashamed for smoking. Over time, they're protected, right? The system. And when you feel ashamed for smoking,
it's the energy that comes with that shame, like, man, I need to stop smoking, I need to stop doing this, I need to stop hitting the weed. And they feed off of that shame, these entities in the fourth dimension, they feed off of that shame, that grief, you know what I'm saying? That fear, that anxiety, that feeling that you don't know how you're going to pay your bills or not, you don't know how you're going to do this and that, you don't know if you're going to lose your job or not. They feed off of that, right? They have systems set up all over this planet to produce that energy, whether it's the music industry, the entertainment industry, all to produce this loop in different ways, right? Whether it's programming some stuff into your subconscious, or whether it's influencing you to vibrate low, anything, right? All different types of shit. Like, we are literally out the fucking way. We are out the way. So, yeah, but there's all these systems that are used to set up to bring this energy. You know what I'm saying? Holidays and all that shit. It's all to produce. It's all to get that loop. You know? And they gotta have the element of surprise for them to harvest the loop. Because if you know that you're living in hell, you're not gonna give off that energy. Because you already know. It's like if somebody's telling you, I'm gonna do this, and they never do it. At first, you'd be like, God damn, you know? But after a while, you'd be like, okay, I'm already used to this, so I'm not gonna be as emotional and as reactive because I'm already used to this, right? That's why they have to tell you, God will, Jesus will return, and you know, just ask for forgiveness for your sins, and you know what I'm saying, all of this shit. So when you do some bullshit, they'll tell you to ask for forgiveness for your sins instead of telling you to go within and change. Because if you go within, you're not going to do that shit no more, right? But if you ask for forgiveness of your sins, the possibility you're going to do this shit again, right? And then you're going to be ashamed. And then they harvest that energy off of you being ashamed. They feed off of that energy, right? It's just a certain emotion that you feel when you're feeling ashamed. Especially if you going back and forth to Jesus, asking for forgiveness of this shit that you feel ashamed of. The more you go back and forth asking for forgiveness, you're going to be more ashamed, or you're going to have more shame coming off your aura. And that shame is root. That shame is that what we know as shame is another form of loot. It's a food source for these entities, right? And like I tell y'all, the inorganic species, it's easier for their vessels to be used because of their genetics, right? And they can have one of these archons attached to them, and you can tell when you're being gang stalked. Most of these gang stalkers with the shame, they're not just these are archons though, right? And you start getting familiar with the energy that you see when they get around you. It's gonna be like you're a mannequin, but they're moving. And I came to the conclusion that these are archons using these people's vessels, right? So, for instance, with the gang stalking, you have the spiritual gang stalking where people are botted out, right? And then you have the organized gang stalking. In my opinion, the organized gang stalking, when these people get recruited, they fully give their vessel over to these archons, and then the archon is using their vessels to produce this loot by going around you, making you feel uncomfortable. Now you're giving off this loot. By tailgating you, now you're giving off this loot, etc., right? Because they need a vessel. They can't just be in the air and make you give off this loot. They need a vessel, right? And they need a vessel that's a weaker vessel. So anybody that's being gang stalked, whatever race you are, whatever species you are, I can guarantee you, 9 times out of 10, it's the inorganic species with the weaker genetics doing the gang stalking, because it's easier for their vessel to be inhabited by these low vibrational spirits, right? And when their vessel gets inhabited, now the archons that are inhabiting their vessel, they could go around and get this loot in different ways by tailgating you, by doing the gang stalking shit, right? And then you already have the inorganic species that are just being hit with by spirits are could be talking in their ear, or they could just be bought out, and they'll do the same shit, and the archons do the same shit that the inorganic species will do, is what I'm trying to say. And you won't even know what the fuck is going on, right? You won't know what the fuck is going on. Hold on. Yeah, you won't know what's going on, that's what I'm saying. It's just you have to be aware of this shit, right? You have to be aware of it. You know, but I'm just talking, letting this talking, so whoever can grasp this, share it, spread it so we can, you know what I'm saying? more people can just be familiar with this information. You know, I ain't trying to wake nobody up. I ain't trying to make nobody think how I think. I'm just trying to plant a seed so you can think about it. Everything that we do on this planet produces emotions, like these systems that are set up, right? Now, even if you're worshiping Jesus and you think you're worshiping Jesus, but you're worshiping the devil, that's giving that loose too. You know what I'm saying? All of these systems that are set up is to produce this energy, this loose. That's why we have to go to work. That's why it's road rage and violence. That's why this shit that they can stop, but they don't stop, because if they stop it, you're not going to produce that energy no more. And if somebody tells you, yeah, we're trying to stop the evil in the world, and then it's still evil in the world, the evil is going to surprise you. But if you know that they're not trying to stop the evil in the world, that it's just evil in the world, it's not going to surprise you. And with it not surprising you, you're not going to produce that loop. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to produce the loop. That's why they have to play both sides, make it seem like they're trying to find a solution the whole time they're causing a problem. Right? Because if you're thinking that they're trying to find a solution, that's hope. You have to hope. And then when you get let down after having hope, they can feed off of that disappointment. That loose that comes from you being disappointed. Right? But if you already know they're going to let you down and you're not getting disappointed, there's no energy coming off your aura, because you already know they're on bullshit. You know they're going to let you down, so you're not giving them none of that energy. That's why they tell you with the religion, ask for forgiveness instead of going within and changing your ways. Because when you go within and change your ways, you're not going to do this shit no more. As you ask for forgiveness, you may fuck around and do that sin again. Right? And then when you do that sin, you're going to feel ashamed. Right? And then that shame is what they feed off of. So I'm just, making this little thing. When you get in gang stuff, like I'm saying, when you get in gang stuff, these are not like their vessels. These are archons using these people's vessels. Because you have to ask yourself, how do these motherfuckers know just what to do to make you vibrate low, to get this energy? You know what I'm saying?
So you gotta know that shit when you
come into contact with what you will feel like is a gang stalker.
9 times out of 10 it's
probably an archon using somebody's vessel to do some shit to cause low vibrational energy. You know what I'm saying? You gotta just be aware of it. Because it's not the government. You have to understand, the government is just a puppet. The government is like your supervisor, right? The government is like your supervisor. They don't fucking run shit, they just giving out the orders. They're not the owners. Like they say, all these governments across these countries, they're just like the supervisors on these jobs. They don't run shit. They're taking orders from these entities. You know what I'm saying? And these entities are the ones that feed off of that loop. You know what I'm saying? The government is just vessels to be used, because these entities can't move around this realm and influence people and have any control without a vessel. Right? So I tell y'all, the inorganic species was created to keep us vibrating low. They're just vessels. And then when you're conscious of this and you try to spread this awareness to your people, like I'm telling y'all, there's something called morphic resonance. If a certain amount of the population becomes conscious, it's going to automatically raise it. It's going to resonate with everybody. Everybody's going to morph on that frequency. That's why they do so much to try to silence people that are bringing awareness to shit. Because you don't have to, if it's 1 million people on the planet, you don't have to wake up the whole million. That's the thing. You can wake up a percentage of that, and once a high enough percentage is on that same frequency, that's why they get rid of everybody, right? They wipe your memory, and then they start programming. And when you get down here, your family's already programmed. Right? Once enough people come to awareness of what's going on, everybody's going to wake the fuck up. That's what they don't want. They don't want everybody to wake up. It doesn't have to be every single individual person. Just like when you see a bunch of fish swimming, they weren't all individually taught how to swim and go in that path without bumping into each other. It's morphic resonance. They're all resonating on the same frequency. Because a certain percentage of them are resonating on a certain frequency, so that pours over to the rest of the species, right? And it's within the species. So that's what I'm saying, black or the inorganic species, because it's not like it has to be within a species, and black people and everybody else were two different fucking species. So black people coming to realization is just like, I can explain it like for instance with a family or something, right? If a certain amount of family members start moving a certain way,